And yet the same revolutionary...
And we're back, and I'm afraid, sorry Mr. John Kennedy, that we had to cut you off. Hopefully you'll forgive us. Now, we have with us Joyce Palmer-Fortune from the town of Whately, and you are a select woman of the town of Whately.
Yes, I'm a selectman.
Okay. Is there a distinction between the title of select men and select woman?
There is no such title as select woman.
Oh.
And when they say select man, they're using man in the general sense that includes both men and women.
Ah. All right. So, as the select man of Whately, or one of the three select men,
Yes.
what do you see as an important thing that's happening in Whately this election?
Well, in Whately, we're answering a lot of the same questions that everyone else is. Who do you want for president? Who do you want for Senate? And representative in Congress, and so on. The one question we have in Whately that's not on anybody else's ballot is not an official ballot question. It's really a straw poll, an informal poll we're doing. For the last roughly 6 to 8 months, we've been investigating whether or not our town hall is worth renovating. We're trying to consolidate our town offices into one location. The town hall is bigger than the center school, so that makes the most sense. But if we're going to do that, we would need to renovate that. We would need to make it handicap accessible. We would need to make it a little bit bigger so that it meets our needs. So we did a little study, and we found out that would cost something like $3 million approximately, and that's a rough number. And we also looked at whether if you just had a blank piece of land and had to build new, how much would that cost? And it turns out to be just a little over $3 million. So our committee was in a quandary. We were looking at this saying, well, the cost is not telling us which way to go. We need some opinions. We need to know what people feel about their town hall, how people feel about building new. So we have a little straw poll. So if you go to vote in Whately today, you'll get a little card on your way in, which says you just give your opinion. It's not a binding vote or anything. We're really kind of midway through a process of trying to figure out how to consolidate our town offices, and we need people's help. If people really just want a new building, then we focus on that. If people really want to renovate the town hall, then we go with that. And either way we go, now we have a different set of questions to deal with, like how much will various kinds of renovation cost? Who gets some engineering work done? If we were to build new, what would we do with the old town hall? Those are questions that we don't have an answer for right now. But we need some input. We need people to tell us what do they really think, which one of those is going to work for Whately.
Do you have a personal opinion on the matter?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to share it with us?
I can see the benefits of, I mean, there are good things to both ideas about keeping our historic town hall. It's one of the, I think it's the second oldest in New England or the second oldest in Massachusetts, working town halls. That might be something that's worth preserving. And to the extent that renovating it will make it an actual workable situation, as opposed to what it is now, where we can't really use the second floor, the restrooms are not accessible. We have a little ramp that lets some wheelchairs come up, but it's not compliant. We're just one lawsuit away from having that place shut down. So whether or not we renovate or build new, we have to do something, absolutely. If you build new, well, there's some advantages there. It's usually faster. It's usually easier to incorporate the features you want at this moment in there. I can see advantages to both. And since I'm going back to the polls and I'm going to be handing out these cards, I sort of don't really want to tell people what my personal opinion is. I'm trying to get people to tell me their personal opinion. So
okay.
if you can let me weasel out of it that way.
Now, moving on to more national things, what do you think is the most important issue or issues in the elections nationally?
In the elections nationally?
As well as our own senatorial elections for a national seat.
Well, my issues are probably different from a lot of people's issues.
That's fine.
Everybody says it's the economy, it's the economy, it's the economy. But you don't have an economy unless you have an ecology. And this storm that we've gotten lately, and then all of the consequences of climate change are things we need to address. So climate, to me, is an issue, and none of the major party candidates are talking about that. Yes, the economy is an issue, but I don't think it means we should keep doing old, dirty, polluting things. We should be innovating. We should be doing things that are not going to leave the planet worse for our having been here. So to me, those are really important issues that most of the major parties, they're not really addressing that at all.
Are there any specific policies that you've seen come out of any parties that would address these problems correctly?
Oh, absolutely. Jill Stein of the Green Party has been talking about a Green New Deal. It's do something like the New Deal they did that helped us get out of the Great Depression, and orient that towards green jobs. Train people who know how to do coal mining, teach them how to make solar panels. Teach people how to install things. Teach people how to make our energy sources green. Those are high-paying jobs. Those are good jobs. Those are skilled jobs. Those are things people can learn how to do. We don't have to keep doing things that make our planet worse for our children and grandchildren.
So basically, create a new economy based on sustainable.
Based on sustainable, yeah, on sustainable energy and sustainable. I mean, I was going to say, don't get me started on this, but get me started. Go
right ahead.
No, there's a whole green economy that we could be opening up. With what we subsidize the oil and gas and coal industries, we could be doing something that won't make the planet burn up, that won't leave particulates for people to breathe in, it won't leave sulfur and arsenic and mercury out there poisoning people all over the place. It's to me a no-brainer, and nobody's talking about it except Jill Stein.
I believe we're also going to have Nat Fortune from the Green Party come along later. But while you're here, let's address some issues along that.
Okay.
Say I'm a practical, pragmatic voter. I go into the booth and I'm thinking climate change is my #1 issue. I'm looking at Romney, Obama, Jill Stein, and Gary Johnson, and I'm thinking, who is going to make the most impact on stopping climate change? Should I vote for the Green Party, say, to get this Green New Deal that you're talking about? Or should I support a more moderate candidate who maybe has talked a little bit about getting some more green jobs started and hasn't demonized, say, the wind or solar?
Well, you say talked. I'm more interested in action. And I would clearly vote for the Green Party candidate. I think there's a lot of people who are afraid. They would say, oh, well, that person's never going to win, so I shouldn't vote for them. I should vote for this other person who might win. But we've been voting for the lesser of two evils for a long time, and what did it get us? It got us the thing we were the most afraid of. You know, it got us dirty air, it got us dirty water, it got us all kinds of things. It got corporate control of a lot of our election systems. We've got a lot of problems. And voting for the one who's a little bit better than the bad one is how we got here. I really want things to change. I'm willing to vote for someone who's willing to actually change it. Now, I'm not saying that person will necessarily win in our system, but if I vote for that change, then I hope everybody who's looking at voters will notice that I'm voting for change, and more people like me are voting for change.
All right, hope and change.
Real change, though, this time. Real change, yeah.
Right, okay. So
we haven't let you talk very much.
Do you have any questions?
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm just thinking about especially the two major candidates right now for the presidential election, and what are their positions right now on green and climate change issues? You know, what are your criticisms of them, and how would you sort of convince people who are more likely to vote for them, maybe get them to be aware of something that they're very lacking in, especially in the climate change issue?
Let me give you one example.
Sure.
I listened to the debates from the major parties, and I almost stood up and tore all my hair out at one point because one candidate accused the other of being anti-coal. Now, coal is one of the dirtiest ways to produce energy. It causes asthma. It causes all kinds of poisonous things that cause things like problems with mental development in children. It's It's the worst possible way to produce energy. And the two major party candidates are fighting about who's more pro-coal than the other. Neither one of them is pro-environment in their actions. And even in their words at that point.
Quickly about coal.
Yes.
Both Romney and Obama have said their support is for clean coal. What does this distinction mean, if anything?
Clean coal, they call it clean coal because dirty coal doesn't sound very good. There isn't really any such thing as clean coal.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it is non-existent.
And I say that as a physics teacher, yes.
Ah, and all about the thermodynamics.
It's all about the thermodynamics, right? Exactly, exactly.
All right. Now, a very important issue that you did sort of hint upon earlier is the spoiler issue.
Oh, yeah.
When you're talking about that. We've been asking people about money in campaigns and electoral reform. What do you think would help get these issues to the forefront in electoral reform?
I think amending the Constitution to ban corporate money. Corporations are not people and money is not speech, and we should have that in our Constitution. If we can get corporate money out of elections, then we at least have a chance of having elections that talk about meaningful things, where we actually discuss issues that people are really interested in. That's why people are tuned out of the election. Nobody's talking about what they're interested in. Yeah.
So you, like Representative Rosenberg, would favor public financing of elections?
You meant Representative Kulik, right?
Kulik.
Kulik, yes.
Rosenberg's later.
I think publicly funded elections would be fabulous. That would even the playing field for people, and it would make us talk about real issues. Right now, there's at least one campaign that's not taking any corporate money at all, and that is, of course, the Green Party. I don't know about, there are a couple of other smaller parties that I don't know for sure that they're not taking any corporate money, but they're certainly not getting the huge amounts of corporate money that are going towards the two major parties.
Yes. I can tell you, I'm not sure if he's in the ballot in Massachusetts, but Rocky Anderson of the Justice Party does not accept donations over, I believe, either 500 or 250.
Okay.
But that is another.
Yeah. I don't think he's on a ballot in Massachusetts, but I have heard he's on many, many other states. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Do you have any more questions?
Well, I guess if we want to talk a little bit more locally, especially about the state elections for senator.
Sure.
Yep. How do you sort of perceive them, and what do you feel? I mean, there's been a lot of talk about how they've been very negative. There's been a lot of back and forth.
We've
bantering.
Usually we don't get any political advertising at our house, but this season we got ads from both sides mailed to our house. Whoever wins that, say the Senate race, if we're thinking about the Senate race, whoever wins that Senate race is going into a system where they're going to be pressured by their party to vote the way their party wants them to vote, which will be the way the corporate funders of those parties want them to vote. Whether those two people are good people or bad people, I'm not really willing to say. But they're both going into a very corrupt system. So if there's anything that either one can do to make that system less corrupt, to get rid of the corporate money that is corrupting this system, then I think that that would be a really good thing. I'm not sure that either one is running on that particular platform. But it may be that there is a difference between those two candidates on who would be more of a reformer and who would be more of a let's just get along in the system as it stands.
Right.
Yeah.
Speaking of reforms, you mentioned the economy is not your #1 issue. It would be founded on ecology. But going with this Senate race, you hear about Elizabeth Warren's work with the TARP funds and being opposed to helping these banks. What would you say, what kind of place does that have?
I respect her taking those positions. I think that was the right thing for her to do, but she was not a politician when she took those positions. There's many, many examples of people before they became politicians would do the right thing. They would advocate doing the right thing, and once they become a politician, they're bought and paid for. And the first name that comes to mind, Hillary Clinton, as the president's wife, advocated many, many good things. And once she was a senator, she advocated the opposite of many of the things that she advocated for as First Lady. So I respect those positions that she took, and I would hope that she could, if she's elected, maintain that kind of a policy to be, doing the right thing instead of doing what her party tells her to do.
All right. Well, I certainly hope that you are not bought and paid for as Selectman of Whately.
Yeah, well, have not been a lot of people bought and paid for my election. That's true. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we are going to go to another break, but thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Alex, for having me.
Thank
you very much, and thanks for doing this. I think this is really great.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.